Hi, I'm Toya.
And I'm Amanda,
I'm a loquacious lioness here to connect controversy.
and I love having thoughtful conversations.
This is Contraversation.
Controversation. Well, that was fun.
Right, right. All right. So this is our debut. We're here to talk about a few topics with you all tonight, and hopefully you'll enjoy the way that we approach having these controversial conversations.
Mm.
Um, I think we'll just go right into the first one, which is DEI. Hot button topic.
Oh,
Trump is
yes.
at the center of most of those discussions. Since his return to office, he's issued several executive orders to obliterate these programs across the federal government as well as the private sector. Um, he's arguing that these DEI tactics lead to discriminatory practices and undermine merit-based freedoms, which I kind of have to agree with that. What about you? What do you
A-
think?
Absolutely. Just like I'm not a fan of, discriminating against people because they were born black or because they were born a woman, I also don't believe we should be giving preferential treatment to people due to traits that they just have no control over. It doesn't
Right.
make sense to me.
Yeah, I think that I always picture in my mind that graphic of the folks who are in first, second, and third place and how they're all different heights, but they have different podiums underneath them to all make them the same height,
Yep.
meaning showcasing equality. Um,
Equality of outcome, though. That's
right,
that's been their goal.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if we're sticking with that framework, I don't know about you, but I'd be resentful of someone who was just pushed up to the front of the line simply because they wanted to have someone there that looked like someone else or represented a group of other people simply for visual sake.
Yeah. At
So
visual
that's
sake. That's
yeah, I
that's what's kind of weird to me about it. It's like, especially the feminists who I see predominantly pushing this, they're like, "Oh, don't judge people, don't
mhm,
criticize people, but they're constantly doing that based on their visual. It's
right.
so weird. I don't understand it. I was hoping maybe this conversation would help me get some things clarified.
You know what? And it'll do that for both of us, but I think also even as just talking about it will probably switch the perspectives of people who are watching us, right? Because I don't know that people are having this conversation from the standpoint of the optics of it all. I think a
Hmm.
lot of people are having this conversation from the standpoint of outrage without even really understanding what they're outraged about.
Oh,
And
yes.
the word or the acronym stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Hmm.
which all right, inclusion for what sake though? Like if we're all like if you and I are in a room full of doctors
Hmm.
and all of the doctors look different from us and they want some of the doctors to look like us, are they just going to put lab coats on us and say we're doctors so that we can fill a quota? You know what I mean? Like does that make you feel more confident in our ability to be doctors simply because a group of doctors said we're pushing them up to the front of the line so that they can join our group and look like you?
See, the look like you thing. Like, I don't understand because I dealt with it like listening to the faculty senate at Texas A&M University, and they
Mhm.
had a bunch of feminists that were
Mhm.
like pushing for the murals on the walls to be fixed to include people that look like her. Now, this is a younger professor, definitely DEI push through the system, but
Right.
I don't understand what would make a woman that goes to a school was historically and started out as an all-male military school to
Mhm.
get the murals changed on the wall so she can see herself. Like,
And
I
I
don't
think
get it.
representation is important in general.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I don't think that that's the springboard for success. I think I think it is important for us all to see a representation of ourselves in day-to-day life, right? But I don't think it's as important. I don't think that that importance supersedes success. I don't think when you're talking about the things that matter, like life and death and health and security and safety, I think it's more important to have the most equipped person for the job rather than the one that looks more like me.
Right.
When I'm researching a doctor, for example, maybe I need a procedure. I'm not looking for that doctor to be a black woman necessarily. And I don't understand this predisposition for folks to say, even just from a numbers standpoint, this is where I really take issue with it because
Mm.
if we're looking at how the population is uh, segmented, the numbers just aren't there for us to be able to see that type of representation. So, wouldn't you rather have someone who's um, perfect, so to speak, for the job versus someone who just looks like you and might not really know what to do or might not know what's best for you?
Yeah. No, I still don't understand the just the core of wanting the representation. Like, why is it that they're saying, "Oh, I want to go see a female doctor that looks like me"? Like, where does me come in? Is it their feelings? Because when I go see a doctor, I want to see a doctor that understands
Yeah,
human anatomy
right,
and
right.
disease and prevention and all that kind of stuff. Like what is the whole look like me thing?
It comes from, I think it comes from just largely seeing what okay, I think it comes from experiencing the world and life largely through the majority's rules, boundaries, laws, right? So if the majority of this country is white and male and I happen to fall outside of those confines, I am more comfortable when I'm around people who look more like me than I am around white males because we don't have very much in common. So, to your point about it being human, that's great. And I think that's where we should be coming at it from. But oftentimes, because some humans look at other humans as less than human, that
Mm.
is where the necessity for representation occurs.
Huh.
You don't have to overcome that hurdle when there's someone in the room who looks like you. Like, even if it's a black man, I feel more of a kinship towards him simply because we share a skin color. We may not share socioeconomic status. We obviously don't share biology, but I feel there's probably a little bit more synergy there with reference to what he would be concerned with and I would be concerned with versus a white male. I think that's where the representation thing comes from. But again, like I said earlier, if we are talking about who's the most successful, who's the most equipped for the job, whatever the job may be,
Mm.
those things have to go out of the window.
Because you're talking about feelings and comfort and
Yes.
I don't know, maybe my feelings and my comfort comes from understanding that who I'm going to for some kind of service knows what the fuck they're doing.
Right.
Like,
And one could argue that that's a privilege because it's not something you've ever really had to contend with. One could
really?
argue, yes,
Really?
one could argue that for sure, because you're more likely to see people who look like you without getting into your racial or ethnic background. You are
Mhm.
more likely to see people who look like you out there in the world, generally speaking, than you are going to see people who look like me. Again, going back to the numbers,
Mhm.
being 13% of the population here, there's just not as many of me as there is of people who look like you.
Mm.
But again, you're right. It goes back towards feelings. So it's like, are we dealing with fact based or are we dealing with emotion based?
Yeah.
And supposedly DEI is a framework used by organizations to facilitate and force fair treatment and full participation of all people,
Mm.
especially those who have been historically underrepresented or subject to discrimination. So if you are not
Yeah.
someone who's been underrepresented or subject to discrimination, you have the luxury of saying, I just want to be treated like a human and get the thing done and over with, or get the thing taken care of, or you know, reach the destination, whatever that may be, whether it's getting your car fixed, whether it's going to get um, a pap smear, whether it's going to the supermarket and checking out your groceries.
Hmm.
All of those things are things that have to be done and arguably don't matter who gets them done.
Hmm.
But when you start to put in that emotion based thinking, then it
Hmm.
becomes, I feel more at ease because this person is a person of color. And
Mm. Yeah.
so it's meant
So
to go ahead.
so you're saying because I haven't had any experience being discriminated against in my life because the color of my skin, um, that I don't care about somebody looking like me that's
No,
doing the job.
I am not equipped to say that you've never been discriminated against. So I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that based on what you look like,
Yeah.
you're less likely to come against in general in your goings on about life. You if
Yeah.
you go to Walmart, if you go to CVS, if you go to the doctor's office, if you go to a school, you're less likely to come in contact with more people that look like me than look like you.
Mm,
That's my only point. In a general broad-based viewpoint of, if you were to step outside of your home right now and drive 20 minutes in any direction, you're more likely to come across and in contact with more people that look like you than look like me.
hmm. That's interesting.
I'm never at liberty to say that you've never been discriminated against. I could imagine that you have, merely by being a woman, but I don't walk your life.
Actually, no, I haven't really been discriminated against for being a woman. I have been discriminated against for being white by black women. I've had
See,
some
and I
bitchy
can't speak
ass
towards
black
that.
women treat me and behave towards me in such disrespect.
And see, this
Actually,
is the thing. DEI is meant to encourage an environment where all people thrive. How
mm,
can you how can you facilitate that? I argue that even though DEI is put there to answer towards what you just said,
mm.
it doesn't guarantee it. There's no way to guarantee that. Even if you are,
Well,
even if you are putting, if I do take you and put you in a room with black women who would never discriminate against you, that doesn't
mhm,
cancel out the times that you have been, and it
right,
doesn't mean that you won't ever be again.
right. Yeah, I think DI has done exactly that though. Like they just because what I've heard from people that have taken the classes and like the whole white guilt thing and you gotta learn about your implicit bias against people that look like me and you should feel ashamed of all the history and make up for what your forefathers did or whatever
Right.
during the slavery. Like I have one client of mine that actually she's very, I guess you would call, left leaning.
Uh-huh.
We recently had a discussion about it. And she's the only one I know in my personal life that I see on a regular basis that is
Mhm.
against getting rid of diversity, inclusion, equity policies. She thinks it's a huge mistake. And the only thing that she could come up with that was the reason is, oh, we have behaved terribly in the past and we need to make up for it now. So that's why these people are getting preferential treatment.
Mm.
I'm like, that doesn't make sense. You can't.
It doesn't go back and right those wrongs, but
No, it doesn't.
it does it does give license to people that haven't earned it. And that's where I have a problem.
Hmm.
Um, Statistically, even if in its infancy, DEI programs put white women front and center.
Yes,
So
they
if the
do.
argument if the argument is to help other people or all people thrive, sorry, this isn't it. This isn't doing it. We're
Right?
still not hitting the mark, guys. I hate to break it to you,
Yes.
but we're missing it. We're completely missing it.
Yeah, I mean, and statistically, in our country, the demographics, don't women outnumber men?
Yes, for
Okay,
sure.
so white women would be the majority in our country, right?
For sure.
They're the majority voting demographic, I believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again,
So,
there's so many holes associated with this, and um to your point, while it may strip a number of white men of their perches, it often puts his female counterpart right in their place and
mhm,
minimizes the impact on those who have been historically underrepresented. Like we were saying earlier, if you've been subject to discrimination, this even further minimizes your impact because now DEI is saying, well, we'll just push the white woman up to the front row and you just stay there. Actually, can you go back a few rows because we need more space for the white women? And it's like, all right, if this is your idea of DEI, I guess
yeah, I think it just doesn't work. Like
it
I have
doesn't.
a friend that works with a part of A&M, and what's funny is she was under the impression we had a higher population of black people in our county than we do because she works with so many black women in academia.
Oh, and see, that's why it's important to step out of your echo chambers. That's
Yeah.
really I'm grateful for the fact that I attended a private historically Jewish university
Mm,
because it gave me a viewpoint of the world outside of my world. It
yeah.
gave me a more realistic, and even when I went to study abroad, there's all these other cultures that may not even have representation in your state. So it's like when you start to become aware of the world around you and just how small of a percentage you take up of it,
Hmm.
it tends to shift your perspective. It tends to give you a really good eye opening of where you fall, where you may land. And this is why it's important to read. It's important to educate yourself. Like I said, step outside of those echo chambers because when you're within those echo chambers where people look like you, sound like you, and feel like you tend not to have room or space or grace for those who do not. But
Right.
their experience is just as valid.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. I guess I'm blessed to live in a community that's very multicultural, so to speak. I mean, just
Mhm.
my neighborhood. I mean,
Mhm.
my neighbors next to me, it's a black couple. They have a church, they have kids, they have grandkids. Across the street, we have Hispanics. Over there, we have Hispanics. There's another, like, it's a very mixed up just neighborhood.
Mhm.
So as far as people looking like me, it's a mix, but we
Mhm.
all have core values that are aligned. So
Right.
the looking part doesn't really matter. It's how you behave
Exactly.
that's key, I think.
Exactly. Imagine if I had thought I can't do this show because you and I don't look alike. I mean, it's silly.
It is silly. It is silly.
I think it's just time to admit that the initiatives have backfired. It's time to admit that. It's time to walk back all of these. I mean, I think it also points towards the fact that in America, we are all too ready to throw a bunch of funding behind something new and sexy,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Uh, so even when Trump said, he blamed DEI hiring practices for the tragic plane crash near
Yes.
Washington, D.C., he might be onto something. Like I know
Mhm.
it sounds insensitive, but he might be onto something here. We had this huge push where we started having all these programs. We're starting to hire DEI specialists. I remember at a job I had in Texas, we had this guy come in and talk about DEI and do all these different workshops with us to challenge our
Really?
perspectives.
Really?
And I thought that that job was so cool, but in hindsight it as I zoom out and look back at that and how where we are now with it, it makes me realize like, okay, this was just another flash in the pan of something that, was a buzzword that everybody could get behind and throw money towards because it was this new exciting thing and this was going to right so many wrongs. But upon closer inspection,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, did you really do what you set out to do, or did you solidify the fact that people just feel more comfortable in the spaces where they're accepted?
Yes. Accepted. I think what a big problem a lot of, we'll call them white people, have had with it is like, we're supposed to not do what we've done in the past, right? And we're
Mhm.
supposed to not be discriminatory based on
Mhm.
what people look like, but then in
Mhm.
those trainings you're constantly being told, well, you need to care about their whole lived experience. Like if you're in a work setting, this is what I never understood about it. I'm like, I'm going to work, I'm doing a job. Why do I need to give a flying fuck about your lived experience? Like all
Mhm.
that personal shit should be left at home. Like
Right.
we have a job to do, can you
Right.
do it? Can
Right.
you behave appropriately to get the job done? Like that's what a lot of people I know have had experience with. They're like, why is this a therapy session? They're like, I have stuff to do. Like,
I'm telling you, there's nothing I can't stand more than people who do not know how to leave home outside of work.
yeah,
I mean, the saying, this is business, nothing personal, is there for a reason
yeah,
because we are here to handle business. Um we're here to do something and have an impact on the job we were hired to do. Has no, like I'm not here to make friends. I'm not
right,
coming over for casserole. I don't
right,
care about your cat. Like
right,
none of that has anything to do with meeting this deadline, updating this spreadsheet, putting out this newsletter, focusing on deliverables, key performance indicator. None of that matters.
yeah, yeah,
It's nice to be able to have some commonality with the people that you work with, but that should just be a bonus. It should not be the objective.
right. Well,
I don't know. Go
if
ahead.
we're concerned with everybody's feelings and that they have to feel comfortable at work, women predominantly feel comfortable like hanging out and chatting about stuff. So I know Mark
Doesn't leave
Zuckerberg.
very much time for things to get done.
No, it doesn't. See, that's the I think that's the neutering and the feminization in especially corporate that a lot of people talk about. It's like the more women you get in a space, it's like women are going to do what women are going to do, right?
Right.
We're social creatures,
Yep.
definitely,
I'd
and they
also
will waste company money socializing and throwing parties.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Find everything to do at work but work.
Yes.
I want to remind the audience, if you have any questions for us, go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll certainly highlight some of them for the next stream so that we can, keep you engaged and let you know that we are listening. So if there's any part of the conversation we were just having about DEI that you have a question about or you want us to flesh out more, go ahead and put that in the chat before we move on to the next topic. Do you have
Yes.
any do you have anything else you want to say about DEI before we move on?
I'm glad it's dead. I'm glad the feminists are flipping shit. I've been watching all their little social medias, and every day they have a new complaint about something that's happening that's amazing. And it's
Yeah.
going to help stabilize our environment, like our society as a whole. But,
We've
and
got to
cut,
get t-shirts. DEI must DIE.
well, Elon Musk, that's his modus operandi when
Mhm.
he's dealing with the government and shrinking it. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it was funny. I heard or I saw one of them saying that, oh, not just DEI people are being fired. Anybody that works for these organizations that took part in DEI stuff, like
Right.
groups and stuff, are also
Right.
being fired. So it's good to see.
All right.
Very good.
Okay, so next topic,
Mm.
we're going to talk about crazy moms. and what's to
Mm.
come with Gen Z. Now, I am not a mom,
Hmm.
but you are.
Yes. And
And
I had a crazy mom.
all right, talk
I
about it.
did. I had a crazy mom. I mean, lucky for me, my nana was there. I mean, I think it's so important for, family to take care, the elders to be around to help nurture grandchildren and stuff. And if it wasn't for my nana, I probably wouldn't be alive. My mom was so nuts. She was your typical welfare queen, your societal parasite, multiple baby daddies.
Wow.
Oh yeah, she would use her kids as tools to get
Oh,
money.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were many times growing up where she split us up and all kinds of illegal shit she would do, but she got away with it because she was a mom and a woman,
Mhm. Mhm.
and also government disability checks. So, societal parasite, cut her off in my early 20s, and I've kept those boundaries because I did not want her infecting my family.
Got it.
So,
And on my channel, I actually was discussing a clip that I shared about generational curses and how in your plight to break them, it is
yep.
also important not to be beholden to those generations' approval, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because just like what you were saying, if you hadn't made the decision to cut things off with your mother, you perhaps would not have been able to break that curse.
I would.
You may have repeated those behaviors,
Hmm.
but certainly in your ability to break those curses, if you had gone back looking for her approval of that, you
Never.
wouldn't have found it.
Yeah.
So, it's just this constant loop. So obviously crazy moms are not a new thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but I wanted to little talk a little bit about how the TikTok generation or Generation Z and Alpha are becoming moms and their relationship with it. Like we just saw a story about a woman who used a hair dryer to keep her baby warm and fell asleep because then she killed the baby. You
Oh, she
know?
cooked her baby with a blow
Yeah,
dryer?
with a blow dryer. She's 32 years old. And I just, what does this say about the generations to come? These are the youngest moms out right now doing things like you know, using a blow dryer to keep the baby warm and then falling asleep, or even just being completely checked out of motherhood altogether. I mean, what does that say about where we're headed as a society when, moms aren't even taking the job seriously enough to provide heat that doesn't come from a blow dryer?
Yeah, like I don't understand the situation why that would be necessary. Like
I can't
did
make sense of
did
it
the
either.
article did the article mention like situationally why she thought that was the best idea?
No, but I imagine if we asked her, she probably wouldn't have a great answer anyway. Again, I think it just eh, to your point about elders, right?
Yes.
Having elders in the home or present within your life to contribute to the raising of the babies was
Yes.
something that we always had. And I think in more recent generations, it has all but dissipated. Um, and you have women, you have grandmothers in TikToks with their granddaughters and their great grandchildren wearing Jordans together. I mean,
Right.
you have I mean, just as an example, this is what I'm saying about the TikTok generation. It's all about a sound bite or uh, a viral video.
Yeah.
Okay. Amanda's going to drop down for a minute
Oh,
and
it's a terrible time. I want to say
no,
something. I think it goes back to like to me it sounds like the same thing as the whole look like me thing. What things look like, very superficial
sure,
priorities.
sure.
Like, yeah, you have to excuse me for
Okay.
1 minute and
All
I'll be
right.
right back.
No worries.
Okay.
While Amanda is gone for a second, I just want to keep going about this topic and you know Say hello to Clue Studio in the building. He says daughter, mom, and grandmom are all Glorilla fans, and that's true. You can scroll TikTok, you can scroll Twitter, you can scroll Instagram, and find any number of examples where you're seeing three generations of family engaging in something that is has typically been fodder for the youth, but now there's just no line. There's just congruency amongst generations now in such a way that there's no shame, there's no respect for what the generations before them were doing, and that loss is it's transparent. I mean, we're seeing it. This is why you have a 30-year-old first-time mom ranting on TikTok about motherhood. And even though she may have always wanted to become a mother, she refers to children as parasites and moms are the host. I even had a woman I worked with that would refer to children as crotch droplets. Now, she wasn't a mom herself because she was very much a feminist or is very much a feminist. And so she didn't see anything wrong with referring to children that way. But there are people who probably would take issue with referring to children as crotch droplets. But in this day and age, again, like Amanda was just saying, it's all about the superficiality of things where you have people who are much more interested in getting that viral moment. So they'll say things just to get that, just to have people react to it, to get that outrage. You know, we living in a time where outrage culture is huge and everybody can't wait to have something to be outraged about and to get up on a podium and talk about it and have somebody join in on that outrage. So it's I I want to highlight a quote that I read from the 30-year-old first-time mom on TikTok. She says, "I'm happy when she's smiling, when she's laughing. I'm happy in those moments, and then every other moment I'm miserable." And she warns, don't do it in reference to having children. Uh, there you have it. You have a first time mom, young mom saying, don't do it, even though it was something she always wanted and she's realized her goal. She's warning other women not to do it. And, that makes me really sad because on the large scale of things, it is a woman's biological imperative to further the family. And I think we have all but lost that focus. It makes me really sad to see that because as a woman who cannot have children, I will never know what that is like. I will never be able to contribute to the family that I belong to in that way. And that's a big miss for me. It's something that as I was growing up, I never thought I wanted to do. But as I got older and I started to learn the importance of the biological imperative and how those ties that bind us as a family can only be strengthened if we are continuing the family, I'll be honest, it breaks my heart that I'm not able to contribute in that way. Um, because I'd argue that a lot of the things that women concern themselves with now in modern times are super insignificant. What I do for a job to make a living is super insignificant as compared to being able to further the family, to continue the bloodline. Um, Legacy used to mean something. And that is all but lost in modern culture and modern womanhood. We don't even have the ability to tell you what a woman is nowadays. So many people struggle with defining that. But I would argue if the biological imperative was more of the focus on the family, that wouldn't be so hard to define. Um, and so when you're looking at Gen Z and younger generations, and you're seeing these things where babies are being neglected and frankly murdered it at the hands of their own mothers, at the hands of their own grandmothers sometimes. It makes me fearful of what's to come. Uh, the larger and long lasting implications of these modern moms is we're seeing dwindling mental health. We're seeing them have reactions to normal parenting um, mishaps decimating their families. When in generations prior, you had the luxury of your elder to shoulder the load with you, to also give you tools to navigate whatever it is that you were up against. So I loved when Amanda brought up the fact that she had her nana to rely on. I also had that. I also had that luxury. My mother and my grandmother and my great grandmother all were there to raise me. And so if I didn't have that, you wouldn't see the woman that I am today sitting in front of you with the ability to articulate herself the way she does, and to fully flesh out thoughts and understanding that who I am as a woman is important because of that designation, and that I understand the importance of manhood as well. So welcome back, Amanda. I was just talking about the woman who was, on TikTok ranting about not wanting to be a mother and warning other people, other women not to, join in on the reindeer game, so to speak, but also
Mm,
just the longer lasting implications of these ideals and what it does to your mental health, how it enacts less access to home ownership and crippling educational debt because you think by racking up degrees instead of actually having children, it puts you somehow in a better place in life. But really, what we're seeing down the line is these are women who are popping pills and throwing back bottles just to get through their days.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know many women like that I speak with on a regular basis. Like the people in my tribe that I've connected with since I moved to Texas,
Hmm.
they're mostly moms.
Okay.
The women that aren't are aunts. Like I have one really good friend. She taught third grade for 25 years, and in her family she's an aunt. Her brother has children. They're from Guatemala originally, and she does community stuff with the Girl Scouts. And I mean, she's an aunt. She never
Okay.
had children, but she's very nurturing. She's a part of the extended family that's necessary
Right.
for optimal childhood development.
Right. And see,
Yeah,
that's impactful.
yeah,
Again, when they say it takes a village, that's the village we're talking about,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know some people that I don't speak to anymore that never had children and they put their career first. And actually, I have one client that she really tried. I did her hair for probably over 10 years, but she put her career first. She became a lawyer and all these things. And she tried to find a partner later in life because she wanted children. And
Sure.
it just didn't happen for her. And then she hit 50 and she's like, what have I been doing with my life?
Yeah.
And she's super depressed. And I don't see her anymore because she got so big she couldn't fit in my salon chair
Wow.
anymore. And I was like,
Wow.
you need to do something about that. Like you're
Yeah.
drinking wine every night and eating your feelings isn't good for you. Like, and I
And
haven't
this is
seen
a
her
part of the
since.
conversation where accountability comes into play,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you are going to have the feelings, nothing wrong with having the feelings,
Mm-hmm.
but hold yourself accountable for how you got here.
Yeah.
You got here based on decisions that you made in the prime of your life when you were
Yes.
supposed to be adhering to that biological imperative.
Yeah.
And no, no one's telling you you have to do something you don't want to do, but what comes on the other side of those choices are very likely consequences that you just
Always.
described.
Yeah.
You know, your mental health is suffering because you've never gotten to meet those milestones that we are supposed to. This is what we're created for. It is why we are given a womb,
Right.
okay? And
Yes.
to your point about the aunt, that's great. I'm in that situation myself. I don't have any siblings, but if there is an opportunity for me to pour into a young person's life, I'm going to do that with nurturing energy because
Yeah.
that's the best thing I can do from where I sit now,
Yes.
you know? And if we all approached things that way, I think it would do wonders for our mental health, but then it would also help to maybe get younger people on the right track,
Yes.
thinking the way that they should so that they see something that they could possibly avoid, you know? Anytime I talk to young women, I always stress that, hey, you might like the way I live my life or what I've accomplished, and there's nothing wrong with you admiring that. But also think about what I haven't accomplished. Also think
Right.
about where I am that you would like to be. You still have a chance to get there where I may not have that opportunity. And I've got to be realistic about that. I've got to
Yes.
be accountable for the part I played in that.
Yeah.
We can't just go around selling hopium to people and retweeting the one-offs where it's like, oh, by the time I
Ugh.
was 39, I didn't think I'd ever make this happen. And when I was 42, I met the love of my life. And by the time I was 43, we were having our rainbow baby. You know, whatever the case may be, those are one-offs. Do they
Yes.
happen? Sure. Has
Mm.
modern medicine made it a possibility for you to have children well into your 40s? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of that, the realistic point is that a lot of those pregnancies do not end with healthy children. A lot of those pregnancies end with um, severely affecting the life of the woman, the mother who had to go through such a pregnancy at such a late stage in life. We're not talking about that. We're just glamorizing
Yes.
this this ability to do it because
We can.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Also, something a lot of people don't consider is what age are you going to be when your kids are adults? Like, my
Mhm.
father was 40 when I was born,
Okay.
and he passed away when I was 23.
Wow.
So I haven't had my father since then. Luckily,
Yeah.
I had a good relationship with him, and he was there whenever I needed him for like the prime years of development. But it would have been nice to have him, in my adult years.
Right.
Like,
And see, I wish we could have I wish this conversation we're having could reach all the people that that young mom reached when she told them not to have children because,
yeah,
she's miserable. We've got to be able to start having the conversations that have nuance. Um,
yeah.
but before we move on to topic C, I
Mm.
would like to just let our audience know that from here on out, you will be referred to as contraband. So when we are looking for feedback from you
Contraversy.
all, we are going to be calling you our contraband. For the controversation, you are our contraband. So don't forget to email us with questions and comments, controversational@gmail.com. You'll see that right at the bottom of your screen. So we welcome those questions. I think Clue Studio had a question earlier in the chat. If you wouldn't mind emailing us that question, we'll be happy to discuss it on the next show.
Mm.
Um, and so with that, we'll move on to our wild card topic. Uh,
Yes. What is, and this is a surprise now,
yes,
right? We
yes.
don't even know
We
what
don't
it's
even
about.
know what it is.
Nope.
So our
And it,
producer is going to hit us with what that wild card topic is.
because we have a video to
Yes, we
see.
do.
Yes.
So Moses, whenever you are ready, we'll get into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. The feminists that I've seen a big, what they call this group identity calls themselves like no, it's like the childless group. It's like married people or single people that just are refusing to have children.
Hmm.
And I've listened in on quite a bit of their content and their streams and stuff, and they just don't talk about anything that's interesting to me. Like they're very much about, oh, like I'm focusing on myself and this thing that I can buy myself, and that's where all my money goes. And I'm like, I don't hear a lot about people's experiences with loved ones.
Oh, right, right.
Like they're missing out on a lot of good stuff in life.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually pull up the video now and share it. Just give me 1 second.
Oh, I saw something.
Um, Also, I meant to tell you guys before we
Emmanuel, good
started.
to see you. Yes, it will
uh,
be a weekly thing. Unfortunately, tomorrow's Super Bowl, so we had to do this on Saturday, but
yes.
I think we're gonna try to do this on Sunday.
So it's important to note that
I
this
love that.
show is for mature audiences only. I
Yes,
should have said that at the beginning of the show, but I will make sure I reiterate that the next time we do this, and I'll do that at the top and throughout just to let you guys know this stream is for mature audiences only. And
we
warning,
need
this
to put it.
video
We need to put that in the description.
we do.
TVMA.
We do.
Yes,
We do.
yes.
This video contains scenes that some viewers may find distressing. So that's just a quick warning, and we'll get into it.
Lower your windows, all of them. What's up, my man? Hey, you got a valid driver's license, proof of insurance, all that good stuff? Hey, you blew that red light.
I like the yellow and turned red when I went out there.
It was red when you blew it.
It was yellow.
Okay. Well, I saw it. It was red. So, all right. Well, you got a proof of insurance? Just hang tight. You got you got anything crazy in the car?
Yeah.
What you got? You got a gun? You do? All right. Where's that? It's on you? Okay. As long as you're cool. And...
I'm chill.
No, man. I appreciate your honesty.
I ain't got time left.
That's awesome. So you have concealed carry and all that good stuff? No, you don't. All right, you're not a convicted felon, right? Nothing.
I do everything, whatever.
Okay.
You
All right. So what we're gonna do is, just for my safety, your safety, I'm gonna have you step out. All right, fair enough. And we're just gonna remove the pistol from you. I appreciate it, man, being very
Oh,
honest.
yeah, all right.
You okay? Hey. What you got now? What now?
See?
You got shot in the leg.
What is that woman doing?
Issue 2162. He rescued 1068, 1020.
Did she just shoot him with his gun? Is
She did. And
that what I just saw that happen?
yes, and someone had sent me this video last week, so I did see this. But yes, to your question, he told the officer that pulled him over ahead of time, "Hey, I do have a gun on me."
Mhm.
Uh, and they had a conversation about making sure that they were safely going to remove it to ensure
Yes.
both his safety as well as the police officer's safety.
Yes.
Call the woman onto the scene, and all hell breaks loose. And so as you
Incompetent
see it,
fucking
right,
feminist. See, and
right,
then people would look at that and be like, "Oh, look, the police brutality or whatever." And I'm like, "No,
right.
it's just because there's a crazy feminist bitch in a position she doesn't need to be in. It
A
happened because
mistake
she's
that
the
could have been alleviated, avoided. I
yes,
mean, this was obviously a mistake, but a mistake that shouldn't happen if you've had training and that
yeah,
you are a competent police officer.
yeah,
I mean, I I just I don't think we need to see anymore. But as you see,
yes,
he limped away from the scene,
yeah.
and who knows what rights he's entitled to as a result of this. I'm
Oh, he
not
should
sure.
sue the fuck out of that police department.
I was going to say I'm not sure why he was being pulled over in the first place aside from
He
it
he
being a minor
ran,
traffic
yeah,
violation, but
he ran a
w-
red light.
one
He
of
said
these
it was
things.
yellow.
Right, but one of these things supersedes the other,
Yeah,
correct? I
yeah,
mean, a minor traffic violation shouldn't end in a physical injury.
exactly. Yes,
Uh,
and that yeah, that was just handled well, it's like the Secret Service. during the attempted assassination of our current sitting president,
Right.
those women that were
Right.
scrambling around. I mean, not only is it inappropriate to have women in protection roles that men are biologically more capable of doing,
Correct.
when the shit hits the fan, I don't trust a woman's reaction due to their emotions to be level-headed and respond appropriately. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I
Yes,
agree
like Clue
too.
Studio, dispatching, women's work, sit on the phone.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because if you are not
help
emotionally
organize the
aware,
people. Yeah,
right, right. If you're not
yeah,
emotionally aware enough to be able to think quickly and swiftly on your feet, then these are the types of things that are going to happen. And
yeah,
like you said, men are more apt to perform in these roles and to be less inclined to act on emotion
right.
than women would be.
Yes.
Given any day of the week, you might catch us where we're just feeling a little bit more, I don't know, rambunctious than we normally would. And that can terribly alter um, our interactions with others. And how are you going to be in a protective role
Mm,
if you're raging, your hormones are raging, and you feel irritable?
mm.
Those things just don't go together. And again, back to what we were saying earlier, I'd feel way more confident and secure if someone competent was doing the job versus someone who looks like me.
Right. That see, that would definitely. I want somebody that looks like a big, strong man with good trigger control to be in that role. Like, I just,
Okay?
I can't imagine needing
What a
somebody that
concept.
looks like me.
What a concept.
Yeah.
All right. So that was a cool wild card topic.
Yeah, it
And if
was.
you enjoyed that, let us know. We'll continue doing that on future streams.
Yes, and the next
Um,
stream that we are going to be doing next week is going to be longer. This is just kind of the beginning stages. We're going to have questions to go
yes.
over and hopefully some more. Oh, I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead. I'm
And
ready.
maybe we'll end it on this because you
Okay.
know what? I've been dying to find an honest black woman to talk to about this.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this has happened maybe 3 or 4 times just in the past couple weeks where I'm out and about in
Mhm.
public. Okay. It might be the post office, might be shopping, grocery shopping. The last time it happened, and I thought exactly when it happened, I'm going to ask Toya about this. I was at a medical facility waiting for something. Why do black women put people on speakerphone and then walk around and have fucking conversations with them?
Oh my
Now,
God.
this was a medical professional in a medical facility, and I
Mhm.
saw other people because I look at her and she's walking by having a conversation. She's wearing scrubs. Okay.
Mhm.
She works there.
Mhm.
And I can see other people see that, and fellow
Mhm.
employees that aren't black, they kind of look and they're just like, whatever. Like, they had disapproving looks. But
Uh-huh.
of course, none of them say anything,
Oh
right?
no. Oh no. How
Why?
you dare not admonish a black woman?
Why do black women think it's the public's fucking business about their baby daddy drama out loud? Like, do they not understand that that's noise pollution?
No.
That
To
that's
answer your question
Yeah, why
shortly,
do they do that?
no. They don't. Um, and it's something that I take issue with as well. I've been out and about with plenty of black women where that has been the case.
Mm.
And it makes me shrink a little because I have secondhand embarrassment for them.
But you don't say anything like, "Hey,
Oh,
no
I
big deal."
do. I do.
Oh,
I
you
do
do?
say
Good.
something. I
Good,
do.
good.
But it never results in changed behavior.
Okay.
So, um, I can't say why. I can just attest to the fact that you are correct. And in many cases, it's just not seen as um, a faux pas.
Right.
In many cases, it's just not seen as uh, an issue.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I think we largely lack decorum and the ability to comport ourselves with dignity. But again,
Mm,
this kind of ties into what you were saying about um, having elders
yeah.
and them being a very impactful part of your upbringing and raising. Uh, because if you have that standard set, there are just some things that you would not be allowed to do. And if you did them, you would be called on to be
Yes.
accountable for. And
Exactly.
that's really what it comes from. Just not having anybody saying, someone that you respect, someone that
Yes.
would shame you for the behavior, calling
Yes.
you out on it.
Yes. Shame. We need to make shaming women great again.
We do. Bring
Because
back
you know what?
shaming.
I'm tired of hearing the feminists say, oh, you can't judge, you can't criticize, you just don't understand. And it's
Right.
like, as a woman looking at another woman behaving super, like misbehaving terribly, um, like it, I feel like it's our responsibility to check these people.
Right. Agreed.
Yes, the Brian Walmart. Okay, so we have that's what I'm talking about. So we have HEBs and we have Walmarts. Like
Okay.
Walmart, we have three, and they're at various areas of our community. And then we have HEBs, and some of them are in more Hispanic communities. Some have more predominantly Black people that go, and then there's like the Walmart over by Tower Point and all the private school kids, right? So I see these women in all of them though.
Mhm.
And it's definitely, see, I don't see Hispanic women doing it. I see, because I
No.
asked one of my kids about it, and she said she sees maybe older Hispanic women doing it,
Okay.
but they're talking Spanish and they're kind of
Oh,
whispering. They're
okay.
not.
That's
it-
very different from holding a public conversation.
yeah, about super private shit.
Right,
Like
right,
some of the
right,
conversations I've heard, I'm like, but you're
right.
saying that in public? Like, that's nobody's business.
Mhm. I think there may be a connection between that and this hyperfixation on reality television. Uh,
Mm,
like maybe if I'm saying something salacious that gets people's attention, I will get attention because attention is currency to a lot of women, not just black women, but women in general.
yeah.
And so I think this is where there's a connection between I'm going to make my business your business and I dare you to say something about it.
Ooh. Okay, so they want you to say something about it. Well, I'm just going
I
to
think
start
on
saying
some
something
I
about it.
think on some level yes, because
Yeah.
if you're not welcoming that, then what are you doing?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to have my phone and I'm going to be ready. And if I see this again, I'm going to videotape myself telling her nobody gives a shit about her personal business and that she
You
shouldn't.
should. You should. I doubt it'll stop her,
Obviously,
but
your mom or your grandma didn't tell you how to behave
yeah,
properly. This
yeah,
is unacceptable.
yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
boundary
That's I
crossing.
think I think that might be where you should start. You know,
Yeah.
tell me your grandmother wasn't in your life without telling me your grandmother wasn't in your life.
Right? Or their grandmothers did it. Like, I don't know.
It's true.
I mean, cell phones, no, because cell phones only, I remember cell phones becoming a thing when we were teenagers,
Mhm, mhm.
right? Like,
Yep, yep.
grandma
I
had,
didn't have my first one until I went to college because my
yeah,
mother wasn't interested in paying for another bill just for me to talk to people that I could talk to when I got home. So,
exactly.
once I got to college, it was like, all right, even though some of the kids in high school did have them already, it wasn't something that every kid had in high school yet.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for
Well,
that
then that
question. That
wasn't
was
it.
a really good question. I enjoyed that, and it
Yes.
is like I said, I can attest to seeing that behavior myself.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you think we did today?
I think we did okay.
I think so too.
We're gonna add some stuff to the
We
next
are.
one.
We're
And
building
if
the plane while we fly it, guys.
right.
Thanks for flying with us here on Contraversations Air.
Yeah. And maybe next week you'll have a question for me about white women. Why do white women
I'll
do
think of
this?
one. I'll
Please
think of
do.
one.
Because
Yeah,
I
I'll
will
think of
speak
one.
for all white women.
All right. All right.
All right. How should we
um,
wrap this up?
so I want to ask the audience to go ahead and email us with questions and comments, controversational@gmail.com. Um, and next week we will introduce a hashtag so that when you're talking about us or you're sharing our content, you'll be able to add that hashtag along with it. Thank you so much for being our contraband today. We look forward to seeing you again next week with even more fresh topics and coming at them from a controversial standpoint.
Yes, because I feel like a lot of it's women, and women don't like to speak out against other women and their terrible life choices. So,
But we're not afraid to.
yes,
That's one
and I'm
thing you
glad.
can count on. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing this with me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yes, thank you, Toya.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Still says live. So.